And I can fill in the rest, actually, just that you attended today and that you were here to kind of see the information and you received the packet with our standard operating procedures for the family style and service. So family style meals, in order for us to be able to do this at Salem School, we had to not only get permission from the Department of Education as part of the National School Lunch Program, because we are required to have certain components on the trays for students, as well as the Department of Inspections and Appeals for our food safety aspect of being able to do a family style meal service. And the one variance that we had to apply to get in order to do this was for not having a sneeze guard on the bowls that would be set out on our tables. So as part of us providing the same amount of safety as what a food guard would provide in a buffet style situation is part of the variance is for us to do this training on specific food safety concerns that we will follow, so that we can provide that sort of safety for these students without sneeze guards on their bowls. Obviously, we are going to continue following all food safety procedures in the kitchen as far as food temperatures, logging our temperatures, making sure that the food is kept at safe holding temperatures until it's served to the students. And this is the same sorts of things that we're doing every day as we're waiting for the kids to come down, so that that will remain the same, and all of those checks and balances will be in place in the actual kitchen. We are logging all of that already. And then just making sure that it's also acceptable to the students as far as temperature-wise. So just because a chicken sandwich is hot enough when it comes out of the kitchen, we want to make sure that when the kid sits down at the table that it's not too cold by the time they're ready to eat. It's within the safe zone, but it may not be acceptable temperature-wise. So we're really striving to make sure that the quality of the food when they sit down is as good as what it would be coming out of a pan onto a tray when the kids are coming through the line. So, and that's more of the stuff that we're doing internally in the kitchen to make sure that this goes smoothly and that it's safe for the students as well. There were 4 major standard operating procedures that the Department of Inspections and Appeals requested that we go over. So we're going to start today. First, Appendix 1 here is washing hands, standard operating procedures. So we are going to put a few of these procedures in place to make sure that we have good practices. So we'll start with Tiffany. She's going to go over this one, and I'll do the rest of the procedures.
Okay, so washing hands. Anybody who handles the food, prepares it, or serves it has to wash their hands first. You have to use the hand sink that is located in my kitchen, so a small white porcelain sink. Typically what you do is you have the water about 100 degrees, it needs to be fairly warm. You want to wet your hands and your forearms. Take your soap, scrub in between the fingers, fingernails, all that good stuff, 10 to 15 seconds. Rinse, use your paper towels to dry, and then use the paper towels also to shut off the water, and then dispose in the garbage can. We'll have helpers that are going to come in and refill bowls of food, these students or parents or whatever. They need to wash their hands each and every time they come in before they grab their bowls to put the back out here for the main service. You cannot use the stainless steel sinks to wash your hands in, strictly porcelain sinks. The sanitizer, you can still use the sanitizer, but your hands have to be washed properly before you use the sanitizer. And I, of course, will be in the kitchen making sure that everybody washes their hands properly after document all of that kind of stuff. Just make sure you wash your hands.
All right, so one of the major concerns, as kids are coming down to lunch is are their hands clean from transitioning from the classroom into the kitchen when they're going to be picking up utensils. So what we will need to do is make available, there are 4 different sinks that we can divvy out your students to be washing their hands before they come into the cafeteria and participate in lunch. We have, and I will put up hand washing signs if they're not already up. For kids, you know, the first week we're going to be right there, have someone stationed at the sinks to help the kids to review how to wash hands, as far as requiring the soap, the lather, the rinse, and making sure that we're drying our hands. But we have the boys' bathroom, girls' bathroom, the kitchen hand washing sink that's right inside the door will be available as a washing station. And then if we need to open up the faculty just hand washing sink just for hand washing, we'll have 4 stations for your students as your classroom comes down to divvy out to make sure that their hands are washed before they come into the cafeteria. Let's see. Anytime we see during service or during actual lunch time, you know, sneezing in hand, any sort of those types of things that are very, very obvious that we would have students wash their hands anyway, we're going to continue to do so. There's a whole list here of when, you know, at what times is it appropriate to wash your hands. So before starting your work, before putting on gloves if you are a supervisor, before the kids come into the cafeteria, sneezing or coughing, touching your hair or face, all these things. If we need to send a kid back during lunch, you know, to go wash his hands and you feel that's appropriate, please feel free to do so. After touching dirty dishes, equipment, or utensils, it's all appropriate to wash your hands. So we will be watching out for that, and we will be big advocates of everybody keeping clean. Page 2, again, it's an outline of the proper hand washing procedures. It kind of lists it out for you, how long you need to be washing and rinsing. And monitoring, you know, we're all kind of watching each other to make sure that this is being done. And corrective action, we always want to make sure that if we see someone who needs to be washing their hands, that we voice something and retrain and just remind them that when you sneeze into your hand, you need to wash your hands, that sort of thing. Our second, Appendix 2, our second standard operating procedure that we're going to review today is the serving food. And I first want to preempt this little procedure training with what is a ready-to-eat food. That's something that I think is a food industry type word that maybe, you know, you need to review. So ready-to-eat food means that anything that is ready to eat, anything that is going to go straight to the mouth. It's not going to be cooked in any way or wrapped in any way or something like that. So if you have a bowl of carrots, for example, on the table, just in a bowl, that is a ready-to-eat food. It's a raw food that's going to go right to the mouth. So just keep in mind most of the items that we're putting, you know, onto the trays are a ready-to-eat food. So if you see any sort of mishandling or contamination occurring of these foods, that's what we're monitoring. We need to replace them, throw them, discard them, and replace them if we do see some sort of contamination of the food that's put out in the bowls. We always want to, everyone, avoid touching ready-to-eat foods with our bare hands. All right, there's a little different procedure in the kitchen when we are preparing them. Obviously, if you're dumping carrots out of a bag, you'll have gloves on in case you touch any of the carrots that are coming out of the bag into the bowl. But we also, not only do we want to avoid touching them without gloves on as supervisors, but we want the students to avoid touching them. If they do stick their hand in, grab a handful of carrots, as long as they put them on their plate and eat them, that's fine. They don't need to be discarded, but we do need to replace or take care of anything that is in the bowl. It is going to happen. I mean, we're going to run into situations where kids are going to forget, or they're going to lick the spoon, or they're going to whatever. We're just there as precautionaries to identify those situations when that student forgets, take that spoon away and just replace it with a new one. It's going to happen. Spills are going to happen. Cleanup is going to be necessary. So we just want to minimize the amount of contamination that happens as we're eating. Handling plates by the edges, or cups by handles, utensils by handle, same sort of thing with the bowl passing. You know, as you pass the bowls, I think it's going to be better if we just have the kids scoot the bowls, if they take the bottom and just scoot it around the table, maybe in, you know, clockwise, or however we decide that we want to do this, instead of having the kids pick them up. And at any time, we want to make sure that they're not grabbing the rib, not putting their hands on the inside and scooting them. We want to take the bottom and just slide them along. It is possible we could get like a Lazy Susan type situation if this really works out, and it's going to be a long-term program. Once we've got through this pilot implementation, we could do something like a Lazy Susan and a circular table, and make sure that would minimize the amount of bowl handling even. So always thinking of ways that we can minimize the hand grabbing that goes on. Storing utensils with handles up or by other means to prevent contamination. There will be a sanitation station, which is where we're going to have all of our gloves, our utensils to replace any that are contaminated. They will all be stored, you know, serving side down. So when you pick it up out of there, you're grabbing the handle and putting it in the bowl for of food for service. So they will always be stored like that. And then, you know, dating and marking and cooling potentially hazardous foods, discarding leftovers, that's all procedures that are in place in the kitchen that we will continue to monitor and make sure that we are cooling things properly, that we're not reusing product that was already put out in the bowls. If we have a bowl of carrots that were set out on the table as a bulk item, they are not going to be taken back in and used the next day if they were already served. It's a served item. So just so that some of those kitchen procedures are also clear to you. We won't be returning the bowls at the end of service to the kitchen for reuse. Something like a juice cup that's unopened, that is something that has a cover on it, has not been opened. If it's not compromised in any way, that is something that could be taken back as long as it's kept within the temperature range of what we need it to be kept in. It's all right, and that's something that Tiffany will monitor as we go through. Again, we're just monitoring each other, monitoring ourselves, and identifying any corrective action if needed. Using suitable utensils. Let me grab real quickly, and we're going to come over and just take a look at what the table's going to look like. But I tried to find utensils that are kid hand friendly, so that there are fewer drops and things like that, because they are appropriate for the little people that we want to use them. And we'll also have, you know, gloves for our supervisors to wear at all times when they're in the cafeteria, changing them out, things like that. So as far as using suitable utensils, you know, we're not using bare hands to handle ready-to-eat food, so we will have a proper utensil in for our carrots, our green beans, whatever's appropriate for that item. Single-use gloves, we'll be using Tom's Spoodle spoons, spatulas. And then again, you know, all these procedures come back to washing our hands and knowing when it's appropriate to change out our gloves. So if we have any sort of tear or damaged or soiled glove, we're going to be changing them out. And don't feel like you're changing them too often when you're in the cafeteria. We'll make sure that you have enough out here. So don't feel like you can't. You can only have one set during lunch. That's not the case. Make sure you're changing them out. So we have proper utensils for the items that serve, for the size of the hands that are using them, and then we'll have replacements. If they're contaminated in any way, we do want to return the contaminated utensil to the dish room there, and you'll have a supplement on the sanitation station for you to refill. I'm going to skip over the daily food safety checklist. We're going to come right back to that, but I do want to go to Appendix 6 first. And this is addressing unsafe participant behavior. So I think generally I'm anticipating that kids are going to want to follow the rules and are going to be excited about participating in this lunch. And as long as we outline clear expectations of how to serve themselves and, you know, what the expectations are, I think we'll have a pretty okay experience with the kids. I think they're going to enjoy it. There is a chance, however, that we will have kids who are purposefully sticking their hands in multiple times a week or whatever to cause issue. If that happens, we do need to document these situations and keep a log, we'll keep them on file. And if we have three incidents in a 2-week time span, then for that student, we are going to pre-plate their meal. They won't be participating in family style for 2 weeks. And then Tiffany will talk with the student after the 2 weeks and determine whether or not they're ready to and willing to participate in the family style meals safely. So supervisors, you all in the cafeteria will monitor student participant behavior during lunchtime. If a participant is determined to purposely be using unsafe handling or food or utensils, the supervisor will identify unsafe actions participant. You'll want to immediately tell the student, retrain them on whatever it is. They may realize that they've done something wrong. That's not, if it was an accident, that's not really what we're talking about here. This is a student is being mischievous and trying to cause an issue. So you will do an immediate retraining with whatever the procedure is for that. The incident will be documented on an incident report. So Appendix 7, the next page there. It's a very simple incident report with your name, the date, a little description of what the incident was so that we can keep this on file. That way too we'll know if we do have 3 issues within a 2-week time frame that we will have the documentation for that student. And then here, C, should a student be documented for 3 incidents by any supervisor in a 2-week time frame, that's when we'll reevaluate and do a pre-plated sort of meal for that student. All right. Let's go back to Appendix 4. Every day, a daily food safety checklist will be completed by a supervisor. The way that I would like for it to be set up to begin with is either of the kitchen staff will be responsible for filling out this checklist and monitoring whether these things are happening. But it's really important that you, as the supervisors, know what things they're going to be looking for, and it gives you a good idea of what we really need to be monitoring. And it's really just a checklist of all the items of the operating procedures that we've gone over today. So the first one, supervisors and student volunteers appear in good health and do not report any symptoms of illness. This is mainly important for our student volunteers that we have to walk to the kitchen to get the replenishment bowls. We don't want them to be the sickest kids at the table who are touching those bowls before they come back. So if they don't report anything or they seem healthy in every way, it's fine. We just want to make sure that we are actively removing the possibility of contamination by anyone who is ill and might be at school. Hands are washed properly, frequently, and at appropriate times. Again, as students come down, making sure that from the classroom, that they're using the 4 stations to wash before they come in. Student volunteers that are coming back up to the window for replenishment bowls. Are they being asked to wash their hands before the bowl is given to them? And us as supervisors, if we clean up a situation or if we handle, contaminated utensils, are we changing out our gloves and are we using the stations to wash our hands? So those are things that kitchen staff especially will be, marking down, but for you to be thinking about. Sanitizer buckets or our spray bottles, are they made up correctly and available for cleanup during and in between lunch segments? So are we keeping things tidy, washing them down, using the appropriate quantities and that, clean rags and things like that. Clean bowls are available at every table and used for second helpings of side items. That's something I'll review in a minute too when we go look at the sample table. Bowls of food taken to tables for replenishment have plastic or other covering until reaching the table for service. So in between that serving window there. The student's carrying the bottom of the bowl. It will have plastic on it until it reaches the table. Again, all of the bowls that are sitting there with your carrots on them as the students come in will have plastic covering on them until lunchtime begins. This just to avoid any kind of contamination as they're sitting out in the open, as kids are coming in, that sort of thing. Also, the movement of the bowl from the food service window to whatever appropriate table. We want to make sure that it's covered for as long as possible. Bowls are being passed by holding bottom of the bowl, not grabbing top rim where the food may come in contact. Again, that's where sliding the bowls, pushing the bottom of them instead of grabbing the side and moving them across is a teaching moment for the students. We do want to document as well if there are any students that received a pre-plated hot lunch. And again, this just means that we're putting all the components on the tray for the student and the student is not participating in family style. I would suggest if there is a sixth student in your classroom that you have identified that is not a good candidate for a student volunteer for that day, let's consider doing a pre-plated meal for them and make sure that it's documented. So you will have to communicate that information to Tiffany about that. We want to make sure to minimize the sharing of germs. And if we had any sort of behavioral issue, a student who's unable to participate in family style due to behavioral things, that will also be documented just so that we know that we have followed those procedures. All right. That's all for the standard operating procedures. What I'd like to do is walk over to I set up kind of a table, what it's going to look like, what the bowls look like, and our utensils, and review kind of what we're looking for food-wise for our kids at the table. So we can come on over. It's going to look like they'll have their trays here already set up on the table. As they walk into the cafeteria, they'll be grabbing milk if they do want to have a milk for lunch, just as they're doing now. They're going to grab it and bring it in. When they get to their plate, they will already have their main entree item on there. That is going to be plated for them just as the students are walking in. So that's their chicken sandwich or their beef stroganoff or whatever that main item is for the day. It will be put on here. They're going to have their fruit and veggie options. There will be a minimum usually of 1 fruit and 2 veggies. These are little side bowls for refills. Just as if you were going into a buffet and you have to get a clean plate for your seconds and thirds and things like that. After the initial serving, if a student wants more of something, we're happy that they take more. They just need to put it into a bowl and replace wherever it was, on their tray, wherever they have room. That way we can make sure that they're using uncontaminated service for that second or third helping of whatever they want. If we have them serving from the bowl onto the part of the tray where their beef stroganoff was that they've completely eaten, there is a possibility for more contamination. So we want to make sure that we're putting it in second and thirds of any of our fruit and veggie items that are on here are put into a bowl and then onto the tray. Make sure we have enough of those. We have a sanitation station. We're going to have something like this set up. It will look something like this with all of these components available for you. Extra utensils for the students, plenty of gloves in different sizes for all the supervisors and student volunteers, helpers, whoever needs them. We'll have our sanitation spray bottle here or bucket set up. There will be something available. I prefer having a bucket set up each day, actually, to wipe off the tables and things like that. So we'll make sure that we have the appropriate sanitation mixed up for you, ready to go, and it is tested to make sure that we have the right levels of cleaner and everything. There will be a bin or a bucket with your sanitized utensils to replace something should this fall on the floor or land in somebody's tray or on the table or in somebody's mouth. We'll want to replace it. So you'll have plenty of those available to swap it out without interruption in service. The whole idea is we want the kids to come in, have their entree ready there, and immediately start being able to serve themselves and eat. As part of the National School Lunch Program, after all these, important food safety things that we're reviewing today, it is important that we have the right components on a tray for the National School Lunch Program. And this has to be monitored, and this is part of how we can do this. There are 5 different components in the National School Lunch Program. We have our meat alternate, which would be your meat, chicken, any sort of meat product that's served. Beans can be counted as a meat sometimes. Cheese can be counted as a protein, so it's a meat alternate. We have our grains, which obviously any sort of bread type item, or noodles or anything that are on the tray. You have your fruit, veggie, and milk. Those are the 5 components. In order for it to be counted as a reimbursable lunch, you have to have 3 of those components. One of them has to be a fruit or a veg. So when the students come in and they have their entree item already on the tray, they really have 2 of those 5 items already served to them. It'll probably, usually, it's the meat and the grain. If it's a chicken sandwich, you have your chicken protein and your bun as the grain. So our main concern as supervisors, walking around, talking with the kids about maybe what the food is on the table, what's for lunch today, our concern is to make sure that these kids take a half a cup of fruit or veg. It can be a little bit of this, a little bit of that, as long as the total amount of what they've taken is half a cup. And it's really just our job to encourage them to try something, to make sure that they've taken their half a cup of fruit or veg. Oftentimes it's a little easier to get them to take the fruit than it is some of the veggies, so we keep that in mind, offer them the choices. And what I really envision is that if Billy sits next to Sally and Billy really likes green beans and he takes a good helping of green beans and Sally sees it, maybe she doesn't normally eat them, but she might try 3 green beans. She might put 3 on her tray. She might try them, and then have the rest of her half a cup of fruit or veg be the applesauce because she really likes applesauce. So, what our goal is to really, encourage interaction and encourage them to try things, but also let them take what they like. Our only concern is to make sure that they're taking the half a cup of fruit or veg. The way that we're going to have it set up initially, our kitchen staff and Beth will be responsible for scanning the tags as we get through. We'll figure out the rotation of how we're going to do that, because they'll be the ones responsible for making sure that half a cup was on there. But as supervisors, to make their life easier, we want to make sure that we're identifying the students that haven't taken a fruit or veg side and encourage them to do so. I'll put a couple of these out, and I can pass them around too. These are signs that they're just visual examples to give you an idea, like what is a half a cup? What does that look like?
So what if they don't take it? I mean, you're saying encourage, but what if they don't take it?
They have to take something.
Okay,
they
so
have
it's
to
not
take
encourage, it's you have to take. It's not.
Yes.
It's required.
It is required.
Okay.
Yes. It is required. We're just encouraging them to take the items that they prefer over others, I guess, is a better way to. But yes, thank you for. They do have to take a half a cup of fruit or veg in total. So on here, the visual examples of what this looks like. And we will have one of these posted in the cafeteria here. There is one in the lunchroom already. But if you look down here in the middle column, this is what half a cup looks like of different common items that are served. They're not all fruits or veg. On here there are some meat alternates. It looks like there's some ham and shredded cheese at the bottom. You won't really be looking at those necessarily. But here, what does half a cup of carrots look like? 2, 4, 4, 6, like seven baby carrots constitutes half a cup of veg there. So let's say they take, 4 carrots and 3 peach slices, you have half a cup there. But this is part of making sure that they have the fruits and vegetables on their plate to be part of the National School Lunch Program. So please, take a look. It's a good visual representation of that. You won't be responsible for making sure they're on there, but it will help those who are going through and scanning tags, scanning participation, that they do have the appropriate things on their tray. I haven't seen the lanyards in action recently with the barcodes on them, but we will continue using them in a way where students are going to wear them. They are going to have them on their back so that as Beth or Tiffany or Robin come through, they're glancing at trays, they're seeing that the student has the fruit or veg on their plate, that they're just doing a scan. Lanyards then will be collected. I would assume we have to figure out for sure exactly how it will work best for you to get them back to the teachers, whether we put them in baskets before they go out to recess, or we'll have to work that out specifically how you want that done. But that way, we've identified that the student has a full meal after they've sat down and actually served themselves with their fruits and veg. All right, that's pretty much what I have. Are there any questions, anything that I've glossed over, anything you want more information on? Yes.
Training to seconds. Do they need to eat everything on the tray before they get more of something?
How are you doing now?
Big kids, yes. Little kids, not so much. As long as they eat, it's like three items.
It's going to be, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error figuring out on the refilling of the bowls, especially because if there's a student who wants more carrots and there are no carrots in the bowl, what I would prefer is if we have the conversation, is there anybody else who wants carrots here? And then when they go back, they have an idea to tell Tiffany, all right, we have about 3 kids, there's 3 of us who want more carrots, and then she knows to put an appropriate amount instead of sending a large bowl with carrots in it or something like that. So I would say if there's one student who wants carrots, then we'll go with it. And hopefully they're going to get to the point where they've taken only the items they want to eat on their tray anyway. And so we won't really run into
What if
that
there's a
situation.
bowl, once the bowl is filled and placed on the table, it's specific to that table? Like if you run out of carrots and one table has some, can it go to another table or not?
Yes, I would say yes, it can. As long as we are, watching and making sure that it's not contaminated in any way, that we have used the tongs and the spoon appropriately, I would say yes. One of our goals in running this program is that we want to minimize food waste. We want to make sure that the kids are choosing the items that they want, that they get as much of whatever they want, and that they're cleaning up their trays, that they're eating what's on there because they're eating the items that they like. So just that's kind of where it goes.
Like for example, today, I think it's sloppy joes and broccoli and something else. So the sloppy joe is on the plate, they don't like broccoli. They just have to take a half a cup of something, either fruit, whatever.
Fruit or veg, whatever. There will be 3 options out minimum every day, because there's always going to be the fruit option, and then there's going to be 2 veggie options. That's the way the menu is designed, to give at least 3 varieties. Between the 3, they should be able to come up with half a cup.
Okay, so it's pretty much if they don't like any of the sides, you have to make them choose the lesser of the 3 sides.
Right.
Whatever the equals
Yes.
are.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And the way that to be part of, to do family style and national school lunch program, these bowls are going to be filled with a minimum of whatever the standard portion is that we have to serve anyway to start with. So they're going to receive a minimum amount on the table every day, no matter what. And then we refill above and beyond that.
So going back to, they have to be served so much food, but they don't have to eat it, I guess. Is that, we want them to eat it, of course. course.
Right.
If you get some picky eaters, that they might only eat one thing out of the whole choice.
Right.
But as long as they start off like with their sloppy joe and a half a cup of carrots or whatever
Yeah.
today's is, then they're good.
Yes. And the idea is we're still putting out the same amount of food as what would be pre-plated on the trays as they're coming through, because we have to make that available to the students. But if Johnny really likes broccoli, he's going to be able to eat his portion of broccoli plus the neighbors that didn't get pre-plated. And so we're hoping in that regard, it's going to distribute the food in a way that, you know, kids are eating it and not just having it on their tray.
We have 12 kids to a table, so each bowl will contain 6 cups of everything.
There'll be like a table here and
Okay.
a table here. They won't have to pass it all the way down. I feel like that would take too long to share the food, so we'll have your setup of fruit, vegetables, and side bowls for this table, this 8 students, and your fruit, vegetable, side bowls, dinner roll, whatever, for that set of students.
You think we could run through it, like do a trial, like a mock run or something? Kids coming in and what it looks like, because I'm somebody, I haven't seen what it looks like. We can talk about it, but until it actually happens, it's supposed to happen. But I failed.
That sounds good. And you know, the thing is too, I'll be here for the full first week of actual implementation, and it's going to require us to talk it through with the kids. Like, we're going to have, especially in the first week, we're going to have a person really at the table watching these 8 students and really explaining to them, you know, all right, you're going to sit down, this is what you're going to see every day. Did you grab your milk? Do you have your, you know, silverware, whatever, as you come in? And this is how you use, this is what these bowls are for. These are your second and third bowls. This is how you use them. And this is how we use tongs, and this is how we, you know, pass the bowls and things like that. So it's going to be intensive for the first week. It's going to be watching like a hawk and really trying to nip it in the bud before we have any major contamination things. But it's going to happen. Kids are going to spill the bowls, milk spills. I mean, we're going to see it all. So it's, but it's part of the learning process, and it's part of what we want to do here and what this program is about. So we'll have a lot of hands on that.
Do you have any suggestions on the flow of servicing? Are you just going to have it all out here and this person's going to start with this bowl and then, like, is the supervisor going to pick it up and bring it back down here? Or, because you can't go,
Yeah, I mean, we could totally do that.
or are you going to just start them all at the end to go down? Or
Yeah, what I would suggest, and let's see how it works, but going in one direction seems like it would be easier for the kids to pick up instead of, for example, starting at this end and then coming in and then having to figure out that. If we start all of our vegetables maybe at one, fruit and vegetables at one end, these could still, I don't know.
would it be easier for if the supervisor's going to pick it up and bring it back?
Oh, maybe start at
Easier to
this
go
end.
here and go that
Yeah,
way?
yeah, absolutely.
And then it'll be a...
And this will, I mean, it depends on how you fill your tables too when the kids come in. Like, do we want them to sit down here first? Are they sitting down at the end first? Like, how, maybe we make it a conscious decision to have the kids fill the tables from in to out. That way, whoever's sitting down first has the food in front of them, and they can kind of get going as their neighbor sits down and is there for lunch.
On this particular table arrangement, when you're talking about the kids sliding the dishes, okay, so we get to seconds, and this kid down here wants seconds, we're sliding everything down to them, are we picking up, or we're not letting the kids pick them up?
No, they can, I mean, they can pick them up. I just think that for initial, you know, service of the
Right, I get initial
vegetables.
service, but I'm talking about, we're going to seconds.
Let's
And
say,
the bowls are at this end, and you're asking us to have the kids slide. Are we never letting them pick those bowls up?
no, they can pick them up. I'm just thinking as a general rule, if they can slide them, we
Because
want to
this
encourage
kid,
them to
because
do
what's gonna
that.
happen is this kid's gonna want seconds, the bowl's gonna be down there, and then you gotta slide everything.
Yeah.
Plus, they put stuff there. The wrappers, they have
Yeah.
stuff all over too. Plus, we have an additional 2 people at this table now than we normally do.
We usually put 3
We
on
only have 3 at the table,
But
and we got bigger kids,
Oh,
and so
well then let's put 3 at the table. I don't mind setting up additional tables, we'll just have one supervisor that who's, might be responsible for a whole table or however that works. Like, I'm open to that, like that, however
Yeah, we've
however
got
it works for the
really
kids.
tight space in there to have big kids move and
Okay.
stuff.
yeah, we generally, we fill up our 4 tables, and then if we have a few extras.
Yep. Okay, so we do 3. That's
So that if somebody picks up the bowl by the rim, the whole thing's smart.
Have they touched the food and contaminated it? Have they touched the food and contaminated it?
If they did, yeah.
Then yes.
But if they haven't, it's not.
Wait, do that one again. So if they just touch the rim, because like when you picked it up, all 3 times you picked it up, you grabbed it by the rim, you grabbed it here. I mean, you had a hold of it here, so the kids can do that or not?
If there are 4 carrots in here
Uh-huh.
and they don't touch the carrot when they pick up the rim, fine.
Okay.
What as a student sitting here though, what I would like for them,
Yeah.
however they're gonna pass it, that way they're using 2 hands too, so that if there's any sort of imbalance with the utensils that are in it, that it's a little more solid. If they do this and there are 4 carrots left in here that we're passing around, that's fine. Yeah, they're not touching the food, it's not causing an issue. All right, you may have questions. We are going to have questions as this gets implemented and as we get going with it. So we're just going to go with it, and we're going to problem solve as we go. And I'm open to suggestions. And same thing about setting 6 to a table. I guess I didn't realize that. It's fine. Like however you're doing it now, to adjust to doing this, I'm super happy to accommodate any of that. We'll make it work. We'll get it set up in the kitchen and we'll make it go with it. And I really think that, just in the first week, it'll be a little more intense supervision, of course, as we set up our expectations and as we realize what our role is as the supervisor for the table. And it's going to get easier and it's going to flow like we never did anything else.
And it's gonna be fine, because we'll have 3 people in here all the time, be Beth and Ted and Robin.
Okay.
And then 1 teacher, and that's 4, and that's enough.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll go with that.
Okay, Tessa, what about like when you have like a cookie or a roll? How are those going to be distributed?
We're gonna work through some of that. Condiments were another question with the ranch and things like that. Cookies especially, we would probably just pre-plate those with the entree so that there won't be seconds on things like that. We're looking at seconds on really the fruits and vegetable options that we're offering, and I'm still working on ranch and how we're gonna do that, but primarily just fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have a question. When I was on duty the day we had baked beans, I had 3 students eat them. The rest of them didn't touch them. So is that a menu item that we could look at maybe taking away? Because I know the main thing about food waste is you don't want food waste. So what about when you see a food item that is not being eaten by the majority of the students? Is there any way we can take that off of the menu, or is that something that is mandated you have to serve?
So fruits are something that it's just half a cup every day. We can get by with whatever options we have available. Vegetables, I have to offer a certain amount of a certain color or category of vegetable over the course of the week. So you are going to see in this starchy group that or legume group actually that you're talking about, our options really that I've come up with that are somewhat servable, that you get kind of presentation, are baked beans and refried beans. If you have any other legume options that you think the kids would like, or suggestions, but half a cup every week we have to serve of that legume item, and so can't really get around that.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is provide a variety while staying within the different portions of colors, of categories, of everything that we have to offer as part of the program. So I can't take them off. Anything else? All right. Thank you you very much for attending. Make sure that you signed in on the sheet.
Can we do a run through?
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Like pretend, but for
Alright.
kids.
If we go get the food.
I know.
We want the real stuff.
Go get our breakfast.
All right.
We have to all go up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to wash our hands and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
All right, you can